Welcome and good day to you all. Today's Educate webinar will explore how MasterControl's QMS, also known as quality excellence, can help transform the obstacles of a manual or less streamlined quality management environment into a competitive advantage and differentiator for your organization through digitization and utilization of a QMS solution. Closed loop, fully integrated and connected on a single platform, MasterControl's QMS enables seamless process flow management, full traceability focusing on core process areas such as document management, employee training management, quality events, supplier risk and audit management, all within a controlled, compliant, and continuous validated state. We're going to focus on 4 key areas for our agenda today. The first area is we'll focus on the challenges and benefits related to today's quality management environments. Second, we're going to talk about how MasterControl can help organizations get highly regulated products and services to the market quicker, safer, and with the utmost quality and compliance. Thirdly, we'll provide a solution overview of the highlights of quality excellence. And at the end, we'll go ahead and take some live Q&A at the end of the session from you, our webinar attendees. First, some formal introductions. My name is Lisa Kelly. I've spent the last 30 years in quality and compliance. I have formed hundreds of EQMS partnerships with companies in the life sciences and regulated sectors. I've helped so many organizations really thrive in the area of quality management, process improvement, and have spent the last 15 years as a business development executive here at MasterControl. I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm also joined by really one of the very best in the regulated industry. That's my colleague, Dallas Volk. Dallas is an exceptionally seasoned senior solutions advisor. He's a 12-year veteran with MasterControl, but comes with 30 years of extensive quality, regulatory, and compliance experience, working in the trenches like yourselves, bootstraps on the ground, for medical device, pharmaceutical, and aerospace industries. Dallas is going to guide the solution overview portion of this webinar, and we'll get to that in a little bit. 2 housekeeping notes as we begin the webinar. Each of you will find 2 buttons at the bottom of your screen. One says chat and the other says Q&A button. As and if you have questions as we progress throughout the session today, please go ahead and type in your questions, but we will need to make sure that you only use the Q&A button that you see and not the chat button. For flow purposes, we'll hold all the questions till the end, where we'll do a brief live Q&A. Secondly is after the webinar, we'll turn the registration page that you filled out into an on-demand page with the recording available for the reference session. So let's start off by talking about the modern day-to-day life that really many of us lead today. From the moment that we wake up to the second we fall asleep, candidly, most of us live very digital lives. Think about it. We're getting information about things we want to know, whether it's highlights of daily news, it's sports, it's weather, and we're getting them via our cell phones, our tablets, our iPads, our PCs. We may be using our smartwatches to track our exercise activity, or we're using apps like Google and Waze to help us navigate to where we may be driving to on any given day. It's human nature. People want to be informed. We want to be connected. We want to be in the know. And preferably, it would be nice if information that we're seeking is organized in some sort of summary format so that we're not searching for the information all over the place. So, for example, it's very similar to myself every day when I get up. I'm looking at my cell phone and I'm looking at my PC. I browse to my MSN homepage and I'm able to see a lot of information in one place. But it's incredible that in many business operations today, and specifically in regulated industries, there's a good chance that when we arrive at our place of employment or where we are working, we are typically looking at working with paper or antiquated systems. I mean, really think about this. Many regulated companies are creating and building life-saving products or services, basically using slow manual processes that are by nature prone to error. I don't know if this sounds familiar to any of you that are on the webinar, but I don't know about you, but I've walked into hundreds of regulated companies in my 30 years in industry, and it is certainly not easy being a professional in the quality and compliance world. People tend to spend so much of their time doing tedious manual tasks related to quality processes that are just extremely time consuming and not an efficient use of their time. Some facts. According to some recent industry research that we did, you'll see that 53% of processes that we have found in organizations are still manual or paper-based. 51% say that managing their inspections and their audits are extremely challenging and they're very time consuming, whether that's prepping for an audit, doing the audit, or actually post-audit. And then thirdly, we see that over 49% report that they have very limited visibility and insights into their data because they're doing things in a manual process. What we're seeing is a trend that approximately around 50% of quality professionals are looking to prioritize the need for digitization of an EQMS solution. It's time to modernize. It's really time to modernize quality process management. MasterControl helps customers transition from a manual or a less streamlined environment to one that it's smart, it's flexible, it's integrated, and it's compliant. So whether you are manual, you're mostly paper-based, maybe you're using a hybrid of manual and some digitization that doesn't offer seamless connectivity, or you're using a legacy system that is no longer meeting your needs, MasterControl can help. How do we do this? We do this with the MasterControl Adapt platform. Platform delivers best-in-class QMS and MES capabilities that are they're simple to deploy, they're automated, they're intelligent, they're data-driven, while offering complete flexibility to allow companies to adapt, create, and manage their own business processes versus having to use a system that may be so locked down from a pre-configuration perspective that you actually end up changing the way that you operate your business in order to use that QMS system. So think about it. Simplified document management with online collaboration, Part 11 electronic signatures, effortless change control, automated training for updating documentation, management of all of your quality events and tasks, and a record of your employees' competencies, streamline and effective quality or forms-based process management, and making sure that you have escalation so that we're ensuring effective resolution of those events or incidents, automated audit management, supplier management, and risk identification. And then finally, making sure that you have a demonstration of evidence for ongoing regulatory compliance. Now, beyond the solution, as most of us know that are attending this webinar, including myself in the quality and compliance space, the success of any project is typically won or lost in its implementation. So one of the things that's important to share with you all is that most of the folks that work at MasterControl, we all come from regulated backgrounds. We provide folks that come from quality or regulatory compliance, have worked with validation, and will work alongside your team to ensure that you're making the optimal use and achievement of the system. Now let's take a look at the power of closed loop quality. This is going to be something that probably a lot of you are going to chuckle at. I can't see you, but I know you're chuckling. Imagine an auditor walks in your door and they ask you about a deviation that happened 3 months ago. They want full traceability on which documents and employees' training records were impacted, whether a change control was lost, did you have to initiate a CAPA, and any details about the investigation and root cause. Think about how much time it would take you to gather and present that information if an inspector or an auditor were to walk in your door and ask you for that information. Well, with MasterControl, you could show how a deviation ties to a risk assessment, an investigation and root cause, a change control, any documents that were impacted, and of course, any associated employees' training records that were impacted, really in a matter of minutes. Whether you're preparing for an audit, you're updating an SOP, you're launching a change control, you're investigating the root cause of a CAPA, MasterControl's closed loop system will help you save time, increase your productivity, reduce your errors, reduce your risk, be a differentiator, and provide a competitive advantage. The power of a closed loop integrated system is that one that offers full traceability from point A to point Z. So from start to finish, anybody walks in your door or internally when you're looking at processes, always being able to have full traceability, accountability, and visibility from start to finish. Let's take a look at the diagram that you see on screen in terms of MasterControl's QMS closed loop solution. On the left-hand side, you're going to see just a sample list of typical quality events or incidents that we all deal with in our organizations. I'm going to use a common example that most organizations have, which is a deviation. So in the screen that you see here, the power of MasterControl is that if we're going to have that full traceability from point A to point C and start to finish, let's take that deviation, and as that deviation is recorded, let's take that through a risk impact or assessment or triage area, determine the risk criticality and the impact to your organization. If it's something that's low risk, maybe we contain it, we close it, we track and trend it, and we watch it for trends. So if it gets to a point where it happens more often than not, we may want to revisit it. But if it's something that is higher risk, we may then go through a process where we're going through a formal investigation, we're determining root cause, we may or may not initiate a formal CAPA, that may trigger a change control. And part of that change control or corrective action might be that we may want to update policies and procedures. And once we update that documentation, we're going to do a gap assessment to see which employees or users are impacted by that, so that we automatically launch off training or retraining to those individuals. It might be even something that triggers an off-cycle audit of one of your suppliers. So if I tie it all back to full traceability and the power of closed loop quality, if internally as a quality professional or an inspector or an auditor were to walk in your door and say, let me see from start to finish, with MasterControl and the power of our closed loop quality process, I can show them in a matter of minutes, this off-cycle audit is tied to these training records that are tied to these documents that were updated, that ties back to this change control that was launched, that ties back to this CAPA that was launched. Here's the root cause and investigation details. Here's my risk triage analysis, and I'll tie that all the way back to the deviation that occurred. The bottom line is we need to help organizations like yours achieve outcomes where they're reducing the amount of resources that it takes to manage their quality processes. We need to shorten your training cycles. We need to give you quicker and faster analysis. And of course, always give you faster resolution. As you look at this diagram, I know I can't see you, but I would challenge you and encourage you to think about where in this process does your team seem to see challenges. If you have FDA oversight, we will make sure your eQMS is in a continuous validated state. A very significant advantage and differentiator that only MasterControl offers are our validation excellence and validated on-demand tools. These patented tools were developed with the expertise of an ex-FDA director. They streamline and expedite both the initial validation of your QMS as well as all ongoing validation processes. They offer next generation automated validation of standard processes, or if you have unique use cases or workflows, we will validate those use cases actually on demand as they are being used. I don't know about you guys, but they are game-changing and candidly life-changing for any of you that have to validate systems. These tools will literally take the burden and the time-consuming nature of validation away from any customers or your clients. MasterControl customers, I would say, based upon the analysis that we've collected through the years, spend an average of about 45 minutes validating releases and upgrades in comparisons to weeks or months that many of you may be used to if you are using any sort of system. By having a digitized and connected system, nearly 60% of quality professionals report it to be a competitive advantage and a really big benefit to their organization. Why? Because you're moving away from the slow manual processes. You're automating processes and your workflows between your different processes. You're improving your efficiency and you're reducing errors. You're going to have better utilization of the folks that are actually doing the tasks, and you're going to eliminate the need for manual data and imports. Lastly, a little context about MasterControl. Some of you on our webinar may be familiar or use MasterControl, and there may be some that are not. This is just a sampling of thousands of customers who trust MasterControl. So whether you're a small startup, a small, medium, large company to the Pfizers or the Thermo Fishers of the world, we serve customers in the pharmaceutical, med tech, biologics, medical, healthcare, and regulated industries, and are even the chosen vendor for 3 divisions of the FDA alongside the CDC and the NEH. And the last thing that I just wanted to share, and I really mean this hand over heart, it says a lot about why most of the folks that work for MasterControl are such long tenured. We're really honored and proud to be voted by global quality and compliance professional peers like yourselves. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the G2 Network report, but think of it as Yelp for industry professionals. This is where you go in and you vote and you select and you choose those organizations and vendors that are real solution leaders in the QMS and the MES space. With that, we're now going to take a look at quality excellence. What we want to do is give you an idea of what's possible with MasterControl and candidly, how we potentially can help your organization.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm going to do a quick demonstration of the value of MasterControl for you as a quality system. I'm starting off in our analytics tool right here, but just a couple of the high level things that I want to hit on before we get into the weeds here is, and Lisa's mentioned a lot of these, but I want to hit on some of it. Part of it is the configurability of the software. So when we implement with you the system, we have best practice out of the box configurations that we can do. But keep in mind the software is completely configurable. And it's designed to be easy enough to configure that it can be configured by the business owner. So the quality team can configure how they want their quality system to work in the system. And that's everything from the attributes of documents to the workflows to the rights that people have in the system, how the training's set up, your quality events, things like that. So along with the configurability, just some things to keep in mind. This is a mobile-friendly software, so your people can use this with their PC, laptop, tablet, smartphone. Notifications via email to people when they need to do tasks, that will be built into the system. And because the system is configurable, that's where that validation. So for those of you in the life sciences industry that need Part 11 compliance, and the software validation is part of that Part 11 compliance, because it's configurable and it's on the cloud, we will transfer the IQ to you. And then also we will do an OQ on all of the configuration functionality in the software. So we will transfer over the OQ as well. We will also do a PQ on best practices and transfer that to you. What that does for you is when we do our initial implementation, there's a validation tool that we work with you on that looks at MasterControl software risk and then works with you to do a client risk assessment. So is our PQ good enough in these areas? What's your regulatory sensitivity to these functionalities, things like that. Where this becomes a huge advantage is as we do upgrades in the system, we will give you the information about the enhancements we're putting into the system, if our software risk changes at all because of that. And then for the enhancements that go in, you can go to your baseline risk assessment here and see if any of those risk assessments change or if any of those risk assessments increase because of the enhancements that we put into the system. That makes it very easy to do validation on this, because now when we put 40 enhancements into the system, your regulatory testing or your risk testing may say that, hey, this is only going to affect 4 of these as far as putting that into a higher risk category. So maybe you only have to do the usage testing on 4 of those 40 enhancements. So think of in the past where it takes 4 to 6 weeks to do a validation, and doing that oftentimes in less than a day now on an upgrade. So I just wanted to hit on that because that is a huge pain point for those of us that are in the life sciences industry. And if we can ease that burden in any way, it makes it a lot easier for your team. This is showing our analytics tool. So, I mean, we have a quality system, but we want to extract the data from that. This is called Insights. It's a dashboard tool that MasterControl provides you with out-of-the-box dashboards. So common, how much past due training is there, how many CAPAs are open, things like that. So we'll give you out-of-the-box dashboards that you can use. You will also have the ability to create your own dashboards. There's basically a data lake. It's an internal BI tool where all of the information from the data lake is there for you to create your dashboards as well. I'm showing a training example here. It's just showing kind of what's going on with training. All the tasks are out there right now. What is their status? You can see here that we can put in information. It'll also put all that information into a spreadsheet version for you. So if you do want to export that out to an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, you can. This is showing, in my company, the different jobs people are in and the different supervisors, how much training they have for their groups. You can see Matt here has 70 training tasks. And of those, 63 are in his group. 63 of them are under normal parameters where people are working on those. They're not past due. But of his 77 or 10% of those are past due. So really easy to drill into that information. Easy to filter for different areas that you want. Maybe get rid of data that's not applicable to you to see what's in process and overdue. The ability to send reports out. If you wanted to create a past due training report by supervisor, maybe a chart that shows all of the supervisors and how much past due training they have, just know that you can tell the system, I want this report to go out to the supervisors every Monday at 7 a.m. And the system will automatically send those tasks out. So all of your supervisors are getting past due reports that the system is sending to them on a periodic basis. Also the ability to monitor what's going on for you. So if I'm Matt as a supervisor, and that number of 7 past due tasks doesn't really bother me that bad, but if that ever got to 20, I would really like to be notified. So I could go into the report every day and look at it and see if it's ever got to 20, or I can do in the system, have it monitor for me by setting a pulse, where I tell the system, hey, I would like this, if this ever gets above 20, if it ever gets equal to or greater than 20, then I would like to be notified, or I would like a group to be notified, or other individuals. So I could have it go to the quality team or to myself or to a supervisor team. But what it's doing for me now is, rather than me having to monitor this daily or keep checking on it to see if I've ever hit this threshold where I'm going to be concerned, I have the system watching it for me. So it'll check that. I've got it checking every day. It'll check. It'll say, hey, if this ever gets to 20, all of a sudden I'll get an email with this chart attached to it sent to me, so I can see that I've now got a high level of overdue training tasks. Along with the configurability, I just wanted to mention user experience. So part of the configurability is the ability for you to set up your user groups so that they only see the information in MasterControl that you need them to see. And I'm going to log out as myself here and log in as somebody who, you know, might be, my scenario is a manufacturing operator, but it could be anybody that, you know, you want to give them specific rights to the system. So when I log in as Jeff, who is one of my manufacturing operators, because I have created a role in the system called manufacturing operator, and I put Jeff as a user into that role, his access in the system is fairly limited, where he's just got one area called My MasterControl, and that would be where his task list is, where all of his training information is, where he can see how he's doing in training, or add certificates, or take elective courses if he needs to. The recent documents he's been to, search capabilities. So if I knew the word in the title of a document, I've given my operators just a simple search tool, type that in there, it'll bring you all the results with that word in the title. But also, you as administrators would have the ability to organize documents for different groups so that they can find those really easily. So in my scenario, I've created an organized folder called operator documents, where my operators can easily go in and you know, find their maintenance documents, their manufacturing procedures, their quality documents. If they want to see their manufacturing procedures, it'll only bring up release manufacturing procedures, and they could view those if they wanted to. But these folders are intelligent. That folder is specifically looking for approved manufacturing procedures. So as people in the company are putting in new manufacturing procedures and they get approved, that folder will automatically point to them. As people are revising documentation, revision 1 is released, revision 2 is going through its redlining and revisioning process in the system, and it gets approved. Revision 2 becomes the approved document, and revision 1 gets pushed into an archived or an obsolete state. That will automatically update to revision 2 because that's the release manufacturing procedure. So in essence, what I've done for my operators is I have created a virtual SOP binder that nobody in my company needs to maintain. It's always going to keep itself up to date with the latest and newest documents. So that task where somebody has to go in and remove old documents and put new documents in, that goes away. But my point here is to show that Matt, as an operator, it's as if somebody just set up a system for operators to find the documents that are related to their job and find their training tasks really easily. Now, those who have more rights in the system, let's say I go in as somebody who's a quality manager or somebody in that kind of role. So I'm going to go in as Matt now. So when Matt logged into the system, it's a much different experience for Matt. Not only does he have the My MasterControl area where he has his information specific to him, but he's also got access to some rights in the documents module because Matt creates and revises documentation. He's got some access into the training module because he sets up people's training requirements or maybe reviews training requirements. He has some access into the process module because he's working on CAPAs and deviations and things like that. So just right off the bat, you can see that he has much more rights in the system. And that's because he is in a position where he needs those rights where my operators didn't need to. They don't start CAPAs or they don't set up people's training requirements. They just take the training. With the documents module, I'm going to start with the documents module. Like I said, you're configuring everything. We have out-of-the-box configurations, but you also have the ability to give your documents all the attributes you want. Set up the workflows for approval so that the system automatically puts them on the correct approval workflow. The system, when you put documents into the system, is just choosing the document type that you're putting in. So if I'm putting in a manufacturing procedure, for example, the system will know it's a manufacturing procedure. Now the document that's going to go in the system, we are a file format agnostic software. So you can still create your documents in Word, Excel, Visio, PowerPoint, PDF. You can put image files in here. If you're keeping attributes, you could put those, if you're keeping artifacts, you know, maybe a PDF or some kind of artwork document that you want to put in, you can still put that into the system. We're just taking it from outside a controlled environment and putting that file into a controlled environment. So some of the other things is what you report track trend on. What you're seeing here is a metadata card, which is just all of the information about the document that you're going to put in. Now we can still put templates in. So if you've got a Word template for this type of document, just keep in mind that you can take away the right for people to go out and browse up to their desktop and bring the document in. And you could have a template in there that they would populate in the workflow and then put it on for approval. But this metadata is for tracking and trending information, searching. So one thing I want you to notice is because of the way I configured this document type, maybe me as the quality manager or something like that, I'm the one that set up the document for all the attributes it's going to have. I've had to take over my numbering scheme, so it knows the next number to give to in the system. So I don't have to keep an Excel spreadsheet for all my document types with what the next number is. The system will automatically put that numbering scheme into that document type. Revisioning. So you can use alpha or numeric revisions. I've chosen numeric here. It knows where it lives in the system. I don't have to figure out where to put it in the system. It knows it goes into the manufacturing draft vault. So that's where it's going to start off. It also knows the workflow that it goes on to be approved. And I'll get into the workflow in just a minute here. So really, I don't have to do much as the person putting the document in other than give it a title. Add the document if it doesn't have a template associated with it. And then you'll notice some other fields over here. One is called custom fields. This is where you can create your own metadata to track, trend, search, report, organize off of. So all of my product related documents have a list of products and you have to select which product that document's for. That's because I want to be able to search, track, trend, organize documents based off of product. So think of product, department, location, customer, project, anything that you want to report on, organize on, search, track, and trend, you can have that metadata in there as well. I also want to talk about linking documents together. From when I was in industry and we would create a procedure, we would almost always have some work instructions on how to execute that procedure and they reference each other. So I can link the procedure to the work instructions. And part of that is it gives you the ability to do a search really quick and see if any documents are referenced to this document. But the other thing it does is it creates a smart link, which means if a year down the road somebody checks out the procedure to revise it, the system will automatically flag you and tell you, hey, you're changing a procedure that could affect these work instructions. Would you like to add those into your packet and revise those at this time? So it kind of helps you keep those documents in sync and tells you, hey, you're changing something that could affect something else, and would ask if you wanted to revise them all at the same time. My point here is that because of the configuration, my people putting documents into the system have a pretty easy row to hoe, right? They just have to give it a title. There's a custom field that's required, save it, and then the system will automatically put it on the workflow that it needs to go on to be approved. I'll show you that workflow in just a second. But back to those Explorer folders that I set up. Now I could search for the document, right, that I want, or you can set up Explorers. And because all my product related documents have a product field that somebody has to select what the product's for, it's easy for me to create an automated folder structure where, this one says documents by product. So now as my people are putting documents in the system, because they're having to say what the product's for, the system will automatically create folders for the different products, and then it will show all the different document types that have gone into that product. So now my management team, when they need to find, the test protocol for a certain product really quickly, they can just go to documents by product line, click on the product, go to the test protocols. It'll bring up all the latest test protocols for that product. And the system is automatically organizing that. To my workflow tool, just know that you can build your own workflows out. It's just a matter of you adding steps, naming them, and putting either users or roles in those steps. You can have collaboration spaces where prior to approval, teams can make red lines to the document. They can make comments. They can tune that document up for approval. And then after that collaboration is done, if you're going to use a collaboration space, I feel the document's ready for approval. I just sign off and it automatically sends it to the next step. It puts a task in those people's task list. It also sends them an email that they can go into the task from the email. It will require their credentials, but they can go directly into the task from the email. Some of your time savers are going to be parallel steps. I need quality and operations to sign off. I don't care who signs off first, so why not send it to them both at the same time, see if I can get this through the system quicker. Me personally, escalation was one of my favorite tools in the workflow building tool. And that's where if you have bottlenecks, I'm not going to call anybody out from your groups, but from my previous experience, we had a team of design engineers that were very, very slow at signing off on documents, like average 25 days to get a document approved. To eliminate that, anywhere where there was a design engineer step, I added an escalation, and I set it to 7 days, which just meant the design engineer was going to get a task and it was going to show a due date it had to be done by. And I had it automatically escalating it to the engineering manager. So when the design engineer got the task, they knew that if they didn't get it done by that date, then it was going to become their boss's job to get that signed off. And so that is a really nice way to free up a bottleneck, is if people know that, you know, somebody above them is going to start doing their task, it'll end that problem pretty quickly. But the point is, you design the workflows however you want to for the different document types, assign the workflows to the documents. Let me go back to this high level look here. Let me show this one more time. So the way the system works is, you know, anything that's new or anything that I'm revising starts in a draft state. It goes through its review, its approval. During the approval, you can either approve it forward or you can reject it back to the collaboration team if there's problems with the document, and they can fix it and put it back into the approval process. Once that document is approved, it will become released, or whatever you name your vault. It could be released or approved, whatever you want to call it, but it would go into a release status. And if there's a previous revision, it'll push that into archive. So in turn, that also updates any folders that you've set up that are looking to that document. And also, because the training is internally integrated to the documents module, if you have training associated with that document, as soon as you approve it, you can configure it to automatically send the training out to all the required trainees with the new revision on it. So I don't have to figure out how to get the trainees in, the employees trained to this. The system knows, oh, that document just changed from revision 2 to revision 3. Automatically launches the training out to those people to do that training on that. One last piece, which is probably one of my favorite pieces about the system, is you're putting native files in here like Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. You do have the ability for the different document types to tell MasterControl to make a PDF rendering of that document. What that does is it gives you the ability to give rights where, you know, maybe management, when the document's in draft, has access to the native and the PDF. But, you know, my operators or my workforce, I don't want them to have access to the native, so they only get access to the PDF that MasterControl created. And you can create it to where they can only see the document when they're logged in, or you can give them download rights if you choose to. So if you give that role download rights, what it'll do is it'll create a document, a PDF document that they can either print out or do a file save as and put it on their desktop. Now, that worries a lot of quality people, right? That people can print out or take a copy of that document. But there's rules you can put on the publishing. So for like my manufacturing documents, I told the system, if Jeff prints this out, I wanted to stamp who printed it and when they printed it. I've also set an expiration date. I want Jeff to know that this document's only good once he prints it out for, say, 48 hours or whatever time frame you want. So when Jeff prints this out now, it'll stamp who printed it and when they printed it, but it'll also stamp exactly 48 hours from the time they printed it. It'll stamp an expiration date on the top of the document. So now Jeff knows that that's only good until that date or that time. Now, the part that I really like about this is coming from the quality world and trying to have to explain to an auditor why Jeff's on revision 2 and the rest of the company's on revision 4 is almost always because Jeff got a rogue copy and he never goes back to the controlled document. So if Jeff does a file save as to this document, this PDF, and puts it on his desktop, that expiration date carries over. Jeff can open that PDF up for 48 hours and it'll open up just fine. But it does time bomb it. So on the 49th hour, when Jeff tries to click that PDF to open it, it will just come up with a flag saying, Jeff, this document is expired. It will no longer open for you. You need to go back to MasterControl for another rendering. So now I don't have to explain. It's just a warm blanket to a quality person knowing that thing's going to blow up after a certain amount of time, and Jeff can't keep that on his desktop forever. Also, for those worried about the Part 11 compliance, we are the signature manifest. It'll take your workflow and put a signature manifest on the back page, just showing all of the steps that went through to be approved, who was in that step, their title, the time and date that they approved it, and what their electronic signature meant. All right, so I'm going to kind of end the documents piece of that now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about training. Let me log in as back to my operator. So Jeff's coming into the system. He's going to go to his My MasterControl and look at his training tasks. Now, when he goes, because of the way I've configured the training module, when Jeff goes to do a training task, it's going to take him through a workflow. It's going to give him an introduction, telling him what he needs to do. It's going to show him the materials he trains to, which in this case is a document in the documents module. We got revised for revision 2. That's why he got the training task. We do have the ability for you to create exams in the system. So if you want to test for competency, you can create exams. Within those exams, you can have multiple question types. You can have it randomized questions. You can give passing scores. You can give retakes so that if they were to bomb that exam, they could take it again. Or you could use MasterControl's newest AI tool, which is the exam generator, and tell the exam generator, I would like a 25-question exam for this SOP. It will read the SOP. You can actually highlight the sections that you want it to extract questions from. And if you tell it you want a 25-question exam on this SOP, it will bring you back 25 questions for you to review and decide if those are the questions you want to use. So for those of you that, like me, that are really horrible at creating exams, you can have a tool that create those exams for you. Just really quickly with the training, you set up the courses that you want people to train to, and that has the rules, things like, is it going to have an exam? What are the instructions? Is it training that needs to be trained on annually so that it sends a refresher training? Is it going to have a due date on it so that if they don't get it done by the due date, it notifies their supervisor? And then the information that you want them to train to. So there is an internal integration with the documents module. So if you created a labeling training course and linked it to the labeling procedure, it would know every time that procedure gets revised to automatically send the training out to the people that train to that. You're not handcuffed to documents in the documents module. You won't have that internal integration, but if you want to attach anything to a training course, we're not going to do it to a document. We're going to do it to a PowerPoint presentation or a video file or a SCORM course or a URL link. We could attach that to the course, and that's what the people would see. To tell MasterControl who trains to what, the easiest way to do that is through job codes. Job codes just are people that have identical training requirements, right? So a job code for all employees would have all their roles in that and linking it to the IT policy, the safety policy. My operator job code would have the operator roles in it and link it to the courses an operator takes. With that, you get some advantages. It's easy to maintain the system. You just, as you hire new employees, put them in the correct role, and the system will know what documents they get to see, what training they have. The other reason why I like it is these job codes, like my operator job code here with the operator roles in it. This is the training that an operator has to take. So if I'm on the floor as a manager and somebody called in sick today, it's really easy for me to go to the status where the system will show me all the operators in the system, what their curriculum is, and their percentage of completion in that curriculum, what they've completed and what they haven't. So if Rob called in sick today, it's really easy for me to see who's trained to that. For my quality people on the call, it's really nice when an auditor's coming in, because operator training is just the lowest of low-hanging fruit for an auditor, right? To be able to come in and say, it's really easy for me to see who I'm going to light up before the auditor gets here. So me and Doug are going to have a little talk before the auditor gets here. So that's a really nice piece. Your people will get their training tasks and their task list. Will also get an email from the system that they can go into the training task, give them their introduction, show them the materials they're training to. I told you can put other materials in, so it doesn't have to be a document, but I put a hybrid in here. Here's the document that they're training to. Here's a video on applying labels in my company. Here is a web link that takes you to the guidance document for labeling at the FDA website. Mine is going to have an exam where they have to take the exam. They would go through, answer their questions. The system, you can also put images in and ask questions about images. The system will then say, here's all the questions you took, which ones you got correct and incorrect, whether you passed or failed. If Jeff would have failed, he could take a retake. In this case, Jeff passed. He did a great job. He's going to sign off on it. And now he's updated everywhere in the system that he is trained to the labeling procedure. So that's probably all the time I'm going to spend on training for right now. We can answer questions at the end here. I want to make sure I get through everything. The last piece is, let me log out as Jeff and log in myself, is your quality events. CAPAs, deviations, non-conformances, really anything that's a form that goes through a workflow and people are putting data into the form at different points. Our advanced quality event management is the tool for you. Let me log in really quickly. And this is a really easy tool to use. It's, log in here. So me as a person in the company, you can see that I've got several tasks here, and they are in different phases of the task. Also, I am the deviation manager, so I have access to any deviations that are open right now. Just to give you an example of what's going on with this, the deviations will have steps where people are putting data into the steps. So me as the deviation manager, I can come in and see all the data that's being put into these steps. I can also see the workflow that it goes on and where it's at in the workflow while it's in process. So the deviation initiation has been completed, and now it's going through the unplanned deviation investigation. That's where it's at in the process right now. After that, it's going to go to a final approval step. So I can really quickly see where it is in the process, who's putting the data in, and where it's going next. This is a super easy no-code tool. So you will determine who can actually create workflows in the system. And MasterControl has given you out-of-the-box best practice templates if you want to. So like I'm doing non-conforming material reports. If you want to use MasterControl's out-of-the-box template, we have already created the workflow. We have already created all of the data that for best practices to create for a non-conformance, right? So site information, the source of that information, the specifics about the deviation, right, or about the non-conformance. So you could use our out-of-the-box template. Just use that template and say, this looks great. MasterControl, you did a great job at designing a non-conforming material report. Put your users in the different steps that are going to be going through that workflow and use that right out of the box. Or option two is MasterControl is pretty close, but they didn't quite nail it. I would like to use that template, but I would like to modify it. So if I go into the first step of that workflow, I will come in here and I'll say, okay, let's get up to the top of this. Maybe we don't call this location or site. Maybe we call it area or something like that. So it's really easy for me to change labels. It's easy for me to add different information in here. Maybe it's a field that we don't even use, like MasterControl has us in there, but we'll never use that. You could delete it out at that point. Or there's fields that you need that aren't in here. And it's just a matter of you going into the no-code widget tool and say, you know, what I'd really like here is a long text field or a single choice. So I'm going to make it a long text field. I'm going to put the question that I want them to answer. I'm going to put in rules on it. Is it required? Does it need hint text to tell them what's going on with this? Do I not want them to put 50,000 characters in to explain this problem to me? I just want, you know, I want them to do it within 3,000 characters, so I can set character limits. So you can also add and remove fields in here, change labels, change the data that's in the label. So that's all up to you on how you want to do that. And then the third option would be creating your own form from scratch, right? So maybe I want to put an accident injury report in here, or I want to create a very simple issue document, issue form. It's just you come in, naming your steps, adding the steps that you want in here. So I'm going to start with, maybe this is my continuous improvement form, right? So continuous improvement idea, where they put in the information about where continuous improvement could happen. Maybe it goes to a product and process step after that, where my product team and my process team evaluate that continuous improvement to see what they could do with it. Maybe do a quality, you know, risk assessment on making an implementation to that continuous improvement, and then, you know, add an implementation step in here where we put that data in. And then you would just go into that form and put the fields in that you want to put in there. Now, there are some functions that are really cool in here. One is the ability to put attachments where people can attach any supporting information they want, and that brings it directly into the form. Also, the ability to link to other pieces of MasterControl. So you might have a point in a workflow where you want people to be able to launch a CAPA if required. So you could put a launch point in there to launch a CAPA from this form, or to link to other CAPA that's already open if you want to, or link to documents because it's a management of change form and we're going to revise documents and we want that form attached to that. So just really building your own form out. And then your people, once Oh, one thing I didn't mention is the system can also automatically validate that form for you. You build your form out. It's called validation on demand. You click the button. It makes a digital twin of your form, puts data in it, runs it through its paces, runs it through all the workflow steps, and then returns you a document showing all the testing it did on your workflow to help with your validation processes. So no longer do you have to do that all manually. You can have the system automatically do that. And then your team will be able to come in and go here, you know, I can launch a deviation or a kappa or nonconformance. I can easily go into that form, put in the data that I need to put in for my step in the workflow. So the system sent me a task to do the investigation. I come in and put my investigation data. I can see all of the data that's been put in the previous steps. I can also see any attachments or links that have been put into this form. And then there will be a full audit trail showing anytime anybody comes into this form and does anything in it. So there's your audit trail. That was pretty fast and furious with that because I want to do this within the next couple of minutes, get this over with. One thing that I want to, so we can do some question and answer. One thing that I wanted to just finish off with is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. It's kind of back to what Lisa was talking about at the end. This is all sitting on the same software platform, so it internally integrates with itself, right? So if you were to look at this document here, so keep in mind that, you know, you're having on the daily, you're having deviations and non-conforming materials and things like that. And during your investigation, you're assessing risk to see if it needs to be escalated. Being able to launch that deviation because it's a high risk to your kappa team to do an evaluation. So, you know, launching a child form off so they can do their evaluation. From their evaluation, they can make decisions. Maybe it just gets closed. Maybe it does go to kappa. Launch the kappa form, do your root cause investigation, your corrective action plan, your implementation. During the implementation, being able to, you know, as part of revising a document, linking the kappa directly to that document. And then as that document revises, the system automatically launches training out. So once again, when that auditor is asking you about that high risk deviation, you being able to take them, show a breadcrumb trail all the way to the training that happened within, you know, 3 or 4 mouse clicks to be able to show that is invaluable when you're sitting in front of an auditor or an inspector. And then I'm going to kind of go off the reservation here for a second. Things like we do have a manufacturing solution where you can create your own production records, right? And turn your production records digital, right? So people are just out there with a tablet putting their production information in. Well, because it's on the same software platform, we're linking that to the quality system. So the procedures for the work that they're doing are linked into the production record, so that the latest procedure is always there. The system can, because those procedures are linked to the production record, it can also check for training. So if you go in to put data into a production record and you're not trained, the system will flag you and tell you you can't put data in because you're not trained to the procedure that's associated with this. And it will actually give you a link to your training task so you can go train on it and come back and put data into the production record. Being able to launch deviations and non-conforming material reports right from the production record into the quality system, so those get done. So now my closed loop even gets bigger. That deviation causes a kappa, causes document changes, causes training to happen, updates the document in the production record, does its training check. So now I've got a much bigger closed loop where that deviation actually started from a production record, went through that process and came back and made changes to the production record because of that deviation. So I'm going to end there with the demonstration, but I would like to just open this up to, any questions that we might have now.
Thank you, Dallas. So I've been monitoring some of the questions that have come into the Q&A area, and just from a time perspective, I'll pick out a few that seem to be asked often from the participants. The first question that was asked is, can a user or person open and use a document if they have not been trained to a specific version?
So that is a great question, and a lot of people will put like a pause on training and on a document before it gets released for people to train to. You can kind of eliminate that in MasterControl. And I'm going to just do something really quick here to show you what I'm talking about. Oops, maybe. Sorry, I got fat fingered. So in that scenario that Lisa's talking about, is a document just got revised and somebody has not trained to that document, and they're doing work on a manufacturing floor in a lab or something like that, and you don't want them doing that work if they're not trained. So you can see that Jeff has that training task for the closing production line, and he has not completed it because it's still in his task list. So I know that it's not completed. I could look at analytics and see that he hasn't done it yet, but has decided to ignore the training and go work on that task anyway without, or on that job anyway without training to it. When he goes to his, let's say he goes to his Explorer folder and goes to his manufacturing procedure and goes to open up that closing production line, the system will flag him and tell him, I'm not going to open that for you, Jeff, because you're not trained to it. You need to go back to your training task. So currently the only place Jeff can see that document is in his training task.
Thank you, Dallas. The next question that we got a few times is, what other quality events or solutions does MasterControl offer? So I'll take the first part of that, and then Dallas, I'll let you take the second part. As Dallas was sharing in the webinar session on the advanced quality events area, the beautiful part about the solution is that, remember, we've spent 30 years working specifically in the life sciences and regulated space. So we truly understand best practice across all those different industries. So MasterControl will provide pre-configured solutions that you can take from a template perspective for deviations, change controls, non-conformances, out of specifications, CAPAs, analyzer reports. And in addition to that, complaints. And really, I'll further that, because of the tool and the flexibility of it, we can allow you to manage any forms-based process that you manage in your organization today in MasterControl. One of the examples that Dallas shared is I oftentimes are working with folks that are looking to manage safety data. So accident and injury reporting is really important. They utilize the quality events and workflow area to create their own accident and injury workflows and paths. People enter in that data. So pre-configured quite a few. You can use them as is. You can modify them to change the nuances that you need to, or you can literally just create them from scratch. And then the second parts of the questions were, what other solutions does MasterControl offer? So when we went back to, in the beginning, when I started showing the ADAPT platform, in addition to the QMS for document management, training, quality events, or any forms-based process, we're also looking at supplier and vendor qualification, complaint and customer feedback, product registrations, management of clinical or trial master file data, development, in addition to the platform, and then finally the digitization of your manufacturing production records. With 1 minute left, I'll take the last question. And that question is your system cloud-based, and how is your system's license? I'll address that. The system, yes, is a cloud-based SaaS solution. We use AWS as our provider for many reasons, the most of which is from a security perspective due to the nature of all of our regulated client base. And in terms of how is the system licensed, MasterControl is you'll determine what parts of the platform best suit your needs. It is a named user-based license model. You're either a basic user or a full activity user. A basic user can log into the system, search for a document, view and print it. They can receive a training task and carry out whatever that training task asks them to do. And they can also record and initiate any type of quality event or incident in the organization. If a user needs to do anything beyond what I just shared, they would require a full activity license. With that, we're going to end session just to keep ourselves on time. I do want to share something with the group. and that is post-session, just 2 key things. If you would like to learn more about MasterControl, I'm going to put on our screen a QR code. All you need to do is scan it, or you can email MasterControl at info@mastercontrol.com. The last thing is that for your convenience and after the webinar, we're going to turn your registration page into an on-demand page with the webinar recording available. So you'll receive it, share it with colleagues if you wish, but you'll also be able to take a look at that. So let me go ahead and share that with you guys on screen. And as we end, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to share your time with MasterControl today. And here it is. Let me give you that QR code. So let me just give you a moment if you have your cell phones or tablets available. If you want to learn more, see more, just go ahead and scan that QR code or email info@mastercontrol.com. With that, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone have a pleasant rest of your week, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Thank you.